Alright, hello, my name is Triwing, and this is an introductory tutorial to character programming with the MEX framework from Super Smash Bros. Melee. Um, so right here I have a code repo set up for a character I'm working on. Spoilers, it's Ike from Fire Emblem. Um, the move I'm going to be programming today as a demonstration for you is his up special. It's basically going to be ported directly from PM, and I'll just demonstrate what you need to do something like that. So this is HSD raw. I'm really not going to explain the basics. There's lots of other places to find that type of stuff. So basically, once I open up my pl whatever.dat file, I open this spider action table, and down, these are the states, and down at the bottom is usually where your specials are. Uh, and here I've already set up a few. So in PM, the move states are named special high 1, 2, 3. Oh, here I have the animations here already ported. So I have so basically usually it'll say like special high and special air high. Air high is obviously the aerial version versus the grounded version. So for special high, the grounded version we have 1, 2, 3, 4. For the aerial version we have 1, 2, and 4. So we need states associated with all of these animations. So in my fighter action table here, I've already set up 1, 2, and 3. And so for the grounded version, I need to import an animation. So what I'll do is I'll do options, load player rendering files. Ike will show up here. Go animation, import animation. Um, so what I want is special high 4. Alright, so that's the landing animation where he goes back to wait. So we have like the start, then we have the spinny, and then special high 3 is the falling. Sorry, special high 3 is here. It's the falling looping animation. Oh, for any animation that loops, we need to make sure we set this flag, loop animation, to true. Alright. And special high 4 is the end. Now this is different between the grounded and the aerial version, so I actually need another state at the end here. Because remember we had 1, 2, and 4. So let me show you how to add a new state. So when I close out of it, to save our progress here, we just close out and hit yes. Alright, now to add a new state, just click here, and in the property view, click this array, click the 3 dots to the right, and you just need to click add. It'll put a new state at the very end. Hit OK. So see, we have a new one here. Do load player rendering files again, and it will import the new animation. It was special air high 4. Now this is the landing for, it's not a landing really, it's the end. If you ever manage to finish up B and still be in the air, it would be like this. So now we have all these states set up in HSD raw. And what we'll do now is set them up in our code after I save here. Save the entire file. And then one other thing we need to do, I need to make sure I go over this. I increased the amount of animations that Ike has just now by adding that state. So in Mex tool, I'm assuming you know how to use this. There's a number called animation count. You have to increase this. So it's 323 now instead of 322. So I save. Okay. If you don't do that, it won't load your new animation that you added. It'll be really weird and confusing. Okay. So now here's the code setup. I've already set up a lot of this stuff. So every character needs to have a main.c file, so ike.c, a header file, so it has like tons of stuff in it, and files for all their moves. So I have special S, special N, special high, special low. There's other stuff in here too, but just ignore that. And a build script. This just compiles all the code together with the correct arguments. You need to make sure that every file that contains code for your character is listed in your build script. Okay, and make sure everything's set up correctly with the paths and all that. So if I go to ike.c, there's an important thing I need to show you, which is the move logic table. This is where our callbacks are held. There's a basic tutorial on like what a callback is, but basically you have 4 functions that every state is associated with. I've set up a few already, but I need to set up those 2 that I just added. So I added special high for the grounded final state. So I need to set these parameters. As you can see, it's just a huge table with functions for every state. Okay, starts at like 341. Everything before 341 is common stuff. So like it's stuff that's shared between fighters. You can't really edit it in the same way. Okay, so sorry, just scrolling through tons of code here. All right, special high 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the one that we're adding. Special high 4. This is just a comment to keep track. We need to make sure this animation ID is correct. So that would be the animation ID is actually pretty much just the spot in this table here in this list. So it's 320. State flags, you can pretty much ignore that. Attack ID, I don't really know if it's important. I just like to make sure it's right. So for up B, the attack ID is usually 14 in hex. It's like 20 in decimal. Okay, and then we just need to set these callbacks. I haven't written these functions yet, so it would be special high 4. These aren't written, so it's going to give me errors. So what I need to do is I need to add them to my header file to say that they exist. So in my header file here, I do this for every state. I just set up the functions. So special high 4, and we've got all these functions. Enter aerial is like the function that handles transitioning from ground to the air. Okay, so I've written them in the header file, but that doesn't mean they exist because they're not written. So let's actually write them. Special high 4. So I'm just copying the ones that I set up earlier, and I just rename all these. All right. So now we have, and I'll also do the aerial. Oh, yeah, I need to add an extra state at the end of this table for the final aerial state. Remember, we skipped 3 because 3 is shared between grounded and aerial. There's no difference. So we have a common state for that. It's just like the falling. It's always aerial pretty much. All right. So I copy and pasted that, but I need to change it 376. The animation ID is 323. Remember that's how many animations we have in total. Makes sense 'cause it's the last one. There. All right, that looks right. Oh, and also this camera callback, never mess with that. It's always the same. And look, red squigglies because I haven't defined it in my header file. Oh, that's not right. Aerial states have enter grounded, not enter aerial. All right. So it's in my header file. Now let's make it exist here. So that's 4. And that should be the last of the setup I need to do. So now I'm going to move on to actually writing the code, which is the fun part. You need to set it up in an organized way and have everything prepared so you can not confuse yourself when you're writing your code. So in Mex, we have these functions. They have to be named exactly this. each special move, each direction has its own version. So it's for up B, it's special high, special air high. So I'll just show you like another hook I have for side B. What I do is I define a pointer to the fighter data, which is basically your fighter's variable. And then in the hook, you typically just change states and set flags to 0. So for the up B, I'm going to do an action state change. Start frame is 0. Anim speed is 1. Blend, nothing. That would be how many frames the animation like smudges together. And we pass in, just pass the parameters, they're pretty obvious. Now state ID, this is something I don't think I did yet. I always define them in my header file. Alright, special high is here. Oh wow, okay, there's a lot to define. Let me just copy that. It should be after this. So 360, sorry, 370. It's special I1. Okay, so I have my states defined. These are the IDs in the table. Like in this table, it's different than the anim ID. Remember that. Okay. So that means I can go ahead and do my action state change into special high 1, the first grounded state. I don't think I need any flags. And alt state source, you can pretty much always set that to 0. Alright. And fighter advanced script, you always have to call this after an action state change. It'll probably cause glitches. I'm not exactly sure what it does, but always call that after. I don't know what flags I'm going to use yet, so I'm not going to do all that yet. Okay, so I'll ignore the aerial hook. I usually code the grounded version of the move first and then do the aerial version. So special high 1. Now in an anim callback, which is right here, we usually just handle switching between states. So for the starting state here, I don't think there's any real special logic here. We're just pretty much going through this animation. So that means I'm pretty much going to do a frame timer check. So if that returns 0, that means there's 0 frames left in the animation. And we can action state change into the next state. So I pretty much, it's very similar to this. I'll just copy and paste that. We're going into 2. IASA, that would handle like getting inputs and stuff and interrupting the state. There's nothing really. It stands for interruptible as soon as. Physics. So on a grounded state, there's a few. Here, I'm just gonna copy it from my other move. There's a few functions you just typically use if you're not trying to move your character. Oh, I need the fighter data pointer. All right, so you just apply. I don't want custom friction. I want to just apply friction. Okay, so we apply friction and we apply velocity in the physics callback. And if this would be where you will apply velocity typically. Lots of special moves. You just do like fighter data. Sorry. phys self velocity dot x or dot y, and then you add, that's a float value, and you just add something to it. For this move, the physics is handled through animation, so actually, once we get to this state, it's not. But as you can see, Ike moves in the animation here, so we don't need to move him through code. He's already moving. And that reminds me to set this flag here, utilize animation induced physics. Set that to true. That's very important. And you'll see why it basically applies the animation so he doesn't just teleport back after the animation's over. Okay. Collision callback. This is where I'll just copy one here. Pass ledge, yeah. There's a few collision callbacks. This one allows the fighter to go over the ledge if they so happen to. And then what you do is, if that's 0, you call your enter aerial state. So like, imagine your character goes over the ledge, you need to transition. Sorry, my headset died. If you go over the ledge, you need to transition your character from the grounded state to the aerial state. Okay. And that's what we do in this function. So it looks like this. I'm just copying and pasting it. You call this function set airborne, and you do an action state change, and then instead of starting on frame 0, you get your current frame, state.frame. So you'll stay in the same frame of the animation. The rest is pretty much the same. These are, just ignore these flags. It's pretty complicated. Basically the flags on the action state change allow you to decide what like is preserved. There's things like preserve sound effects, preserve graphic effects, preserve velocity. But I just leave it like this. Okay. Now special height 2. I'll get this animation callback. It's pretty much the same as the other one, so I can just copy and paste it. Except it's going to go into 3 when it ends. ISA, it should just be empty. We're not getting any inputs. Physics. Crap, what is this one? Okay, so I forgot the name of this function, but I found it now. It's fighter phys use anim pause. It's the one that applies the animation position to your character in the physics callback. So that's the one we'll use for special high 2 because it has animation induced physics, which is what makes him move. Okay, so now we need to handle the collision callback. And now for this move, it's a little complicated because he goes from the ground here to the air, so we need to have some logic for that. So basically, I'm going to use a flag. So what I'll do is, on the frame that he leaves the ground, which is frame 21, I'm going to make a timer. Asynchronous timer, frame 21. And I'm going to do set flag. Flag 1, and we'll give it value 1. Okay, and you'll see what that represents soon. Okay, back to VS Code. Okay. I need the fighter data pointer. Now we're going to do if fighter data, no, this one, dot ftcmd var, which is the structure that holds all our flags, dot flag 1 is equal to 1. And that's basically our logic for, that says if Ike left the ground. Okay. So if it's equal to 1, I want to do a grounded collision callback. So that would be call ground pass ledge. Alright, fighter GOBJ. Oh, sorry, I need to check that in an if statement. So if this one returns a value of 0, meaning it's not touching anything, that happens, we'll enter the aerial version of this state. And so that enter aerial version function is going to look a lot like the one we wrote earlier. So we're going to go, oh, I did not fix that. My bad. Special high 1, special air high 1. So the enter aerial function is going from the grounded state to the aerial state. So same thing here. Special air high 2. Okay. Set, yeah, set airborne. Alright, anything else? No. Alright, so, but this function, or sorry, this state is not just a grounded state. It's also, it also can be an aerial state. And I'm sorry, we do the grounded logic if this flag is not 1, because we set it to 1 as soon as he enters the air. Okay, so else we're going to call air ignore ledge no CV. That's our aerial function. And I'm not going to worry about doing an enter grounded, because if he's in the air here, he's going up. It's impossible for him to land on the ground. So in that case, we don't check and do all this stuff. We just call the function itself. You have to call some kind of collision function in order for the character to collide with like walls and ceilings and floors and stuff. Otherwise, he'll just go straight through them. Alright, so we wrote that. I think that one's done. So now we're on special high 3, which is falling. Now for this one, we are going to apply some velocity. And this is a looping animation, so I don't really think there's anything to do in the animation callback, because you're not going to check for the end of the animation because it's a looping animation. There's nothing to do in ISA. Okay, physics callback is where we're going to start doing stuff. So we're going to apply gravity. No, I need the fighter data. And now when I use this function, it asks for a gravity and a limit, which would be terminal velocity, the maximum gravity that can be applied. You get those from the attributes. ATTR is what it's called. And it's gravity. And also terminal velocity. Every character has these defined in their player file. It's just attributes. Alright. And also, when he's falling, we don't want him to be moving around, so I'm just going to set his... Sorry, we don't want him to be moving side to side, I mean. So I'm just going to hard set his velocity in the x direction to 0. Okay. I think that's good. Obviously, I haven't even started to test yet, so we'll find out what went wrong when I do. Okay, collision callback. This one is important. This is where we handle the end of this state, because it ends when he hits the ground. Actually, I suppose there would be a maximum number of frames for to be in this state, but I don't know what it would be. So I'll save that for later. I'm not trying to create like a perfectly accurate version of this move, just trying to demonstrate how I go through these things. All right. So in the collision callback, we're going to be checking for hitting the ground. So that's coal air. Oh, and he actually can grab the ledge here. That's important. So I'll use a different function. Fighter coal air grab facing ledge. Oh, yes, this one works differently. I'll explain. This one has two callbacks, so you just pass it functions that it'll call. One is per frame, but I don't usually put anything there. I don't really need to see a use for that. The other one is on land, so that one is what happens, is the function that gets called when he touches the ground. So I already have this one defined. Oh, should be enter grounded. All right. So that one is pretty simple. And if you use this collision callback, your fighter can grab the ledge. And also they can wall jump. If they're able to wall jump. If not, they won't be able to wall jump. So the enter grounded is going to look a lot like these, except you do set grounded. Fighter set grounded. And I use fighter set grounded too. I don't know why there's two, but I just use this one. I think it's used more in the actual game's code for some reason. And then the state we're going into is special actually no. Going into special high 4. Yeah. Alright, so special high 4 is the end, which I'm gonna show here. Now if we look at that function, thinking about what we need, it's pretty simple. He's just gonna go into wait. So if remember this frame timer function, just checking to see if the animation's over. Oops. And there's a function called fighter enter wait. Really neat. I don't think that we need anything in the ISA. Physics, we should just apply friction. Now, if he goes off the ledge on this one, I would put him in maybe fall. Either fall or special fall, depending on how. That's kind of like a balance decision. For this purpose, I'll just put him in fall. So if coal ground, so if he leaves the ground, enter fall. Okay, that one looks pretty good. Oh, I don't need this. Alright, so that's like the entirety of grounded up B coded. I'm sure it's not gonna work perfectly. Did I skip anything? Okay. Yeah, I just realized this is not gonna be enough gravity. Actually, instead of applying gravity on the falling, I don't know what I was thinking. Uh, he should fall at like a constant velocity. So that's a lot easier. My bad on that. But at least I demonstrated how to write that gravity function. But I'll just set it to like 3. Oh, it's gotta be negative obviously because he's going down. -4, let's say. Okay. Now, I'm gonna run my build script. So I'm gonna cd into the folder where that's at, and then I'm gonna type build, hit tab, enter. Okay. So I have an error here. This will happen a lot. Enter grounded is undeclared. Oh, right. Because I changed the name of that function, but I didn't change it in my header file. You always gotta keep your header files in order. Grounded. Don't have that one. Save. Should fix it. Perfect. Okay. Now, let me just find my folder where I have all this stuff. Okay, so to open the game, I'm running it from a file system instead of an ISO. It's a lot easier, a lot quicker to start. You can drag your main.dol. I exported this file system with Mextool. You can just go into sys and drag your main.dol to Dolphin. But a better way that people don't seem to know about is you can config and add. You go options configuration, and you just put that directory there. Oh, no, sorry, wrong. I copied the wrong folder. There, okay. And it'll say 0 bytes because it doesn't know the size of your file system, but you can just run it like that. It's way quicker. Okay, so here's Ike. Alright, now let's see. Oh, yeah, interesting. But as you can see, it mostly worked. So what's happening? I'm in debug mode. I press Y and D-pad down, and I can see the names of the states. So I go to special high 3, which is my falling state, and something happens. Go into special air high 1. Not right. That happened when I touched the ground. Okay, what's happening there? 374. Okay. So when I call this, it's putting me in the wrong state. So I think I have something wrong in my table here. Oh, jeez. Oh, okay. So I know what is wrong. Special high 4 is 373, but in my header file I defined it incorrectly. Yeah, see? There's the problem. 372 to 374. Yeah. Is that right? The last one should be 376. Yeah. Okay, that's the bug. So let me recompile my code. Some interactive debugging here. This is a huge part of it, is like being able to find out why things are wrong. Alright. Now look pretty much right. Obviously, you know, you need sound effects, graphic effects, all the fancy stuff, but that's a working Ike up B. Now I can quickly kind of go over what I would do for the aerial version. I'm not going to code that all in the video, but um, yeah, so let me look at the file here. So it'd be pretty much the same, just using these. Here, I'll just write a few of the states. Okay, so I'll go over a little of coding up B. Fighter data. Let's get the fighter data pointer. So this is the first state of up B in the air. It's pretty much going to be very similar to the grounded one. So what did I do here? Oh, I also need to write the hook. And you just change it to special air high 1. And then in my animation callback, I can just copy basically the grounded one. There's no difference, I think. Just change it to special air high. Okay. No ISA. Physics. I think. Okay, so I think in PM when you do up B in the air, it probably stalls your physics. So I can show you. You just all momentum, kill all velocity. Yeah. So in the hook, maybe that's not right. I don't think I want to kill X velocity. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to set the Y velocity to 0 in the hook, so it only happens once. And then in the physics callback, I don't think that we need to do anything. Oh, I'll decay the X velocity. Ah. So this function is good for when you just want the velocity to slowly decrease. Oh, and I need to pass my character's aerial friction attribute. Okay, so this would be an enter grounded. I can just copy another one that I did and put the character in the grounded state. The collision callback is just checking for this. So we do fighter, coal, air, ignore ledge. Actually, I don't want to ignore the ledge. I think that when you start up B, you should be able to grab the ledge in that state. So that if that equals 1, then enter grounded. All right. Then we can do special air high 2. It should be pretty much the same. So I just copy the animation callback from the grounded version, just make a few changes. Special high 3 is the same between both, so I leave that. So this function is exactly the same. No ISA. Physics callback. Copy and paste it. Oh, no. That's not right. Sorry, copied the wrong thing. Viz use anim position. That's right. Now this collision callback. I think we had a really complicated one for the grounded version. I don't think it needs to be that complicated here. I think we can just do the aerial version. So this is starting uppy in the air. I'll check if this function returns a 1, which means you touch the ground. And I'll put you in the grounded version. I need an enter grounded for this, so copy that. Alright, that looks good. And since I added this function, remember you should always put it in your header file. Oh, I already had one actually. Cool. Thinking about this, there's probably some extra logic I'll need to do for handling this flag. So if I'm in the grounded one and it's after frame 21, I do want this flag to be 0. Sorry, I need it to be 1. So how do I handle that? Okay, what I'll do is I'll set the flag on frame 21 of the aerial version. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll just copy it. So save it. I'll explain what I'm doing in a second. Okay, so we want to preserve this flag between states, so we just store it in a variable, do the action state change, and then put it back. Whenever you change states, your flags always, I think, get set to 0. So we just need to make sure it stays. If it's 1, it stays 1. If it's 0, it stays 0. Okay. That should be good. And then we only have one more state left. So this is landing. And instead of going into wait, you go into fall. Very simple. I'll just pretty much copy the grounded version. There's a function called enter fall. So if the animation ends, enter fall. No ISA. So in this one, we do just want to apply gravity. There's no special like physics with this. He's just in the air, so anytime your character's in the air and they should be falling, you just need to apply gravity. Remember, we pass it the gravity attributes and the terminal velocity attribute. Okay, and collision callback. This should be just a simple enter grounded. Let's copy this one. I don't need to do that flag stuff on this state. And so yeah, we just want to check. You definitely should be able to grab the ledge here. And this function doesn't work the same way. This is the one with the on land callback that you pass. So just pass the enter grounded version or function. Alright. Let me just think if we're done here. Oh, I need to make sure this is my header file. It is. Okay, let's just compile. It's pretty quick to test. Oh, too few arguments. Oh, yeah, okay. I used that function incorrectly earlier. Yeah, so this one doesn't work the same. You pass the callback into this one. My bad. Okay. Anytime you see a function with parameters that are like void pointers and it sounds like a function name, it's a function. Okay, so we didn't get any errors this time. Just boot it up. Wait. First I always like to save in HSD raw and then compile. Just because I don't know if the version loaded into HSD raw has my code applied or not. So you save in HSD raw and then you compile just to make sure everything is as it should be. Alright, so and then if this aerial version works, we're done. You know, other than sound effects, GFX, and all that stuff. Alright, so let's do it. Oh, something's wrong there. Oh, I know what's wrong. I forgot to set the flag. This one. Okay, I think... Oh. You should always have an end of script thing in your subactions for every state. When I added this state, I didn't add that, so that might have caused a crash or something. I got into the state. So just save that, compile again. Done. Yep, that was it. So that looks good. There's lots of things wrong with this, obviously. You know, I think that you should be able to aerial drift when you're coming down. I can show that. But other than that, it's pretty good. You know, there's just lots of little tweaks to do. So that would be, coming down would be air high 3. No, sorry. Special high 3 in the physics callback. I don't want to set the velocity to 0. I actually want to decay it. Alright, so we decay the velocity, and we also use this thing called apply aerial drift. Fighter, phys air, apply aerial drift. Ah, sorry. Having some trouble with my keyboard. Cool. And we're pretty much done at this point. I just wanted to show kind of the thought process that goes into minor tweaks to a move. There's lots of little feel things in Melee. Yeah, so it's better. It still needs work, but you can kind of drift to the side now when you're coming down. Yep. So you can DM me on Discord if you have questions, or post your questions in the YouTube comments. I'm really trying to get more people into this stuff. There's not enough people that know how to do it, and it's really fun and rewarding. Yeah, so that's been my tutorial. Thank you.